Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Shelter Game. I can synthesize infinitely. Chapter 41. Push the door open. A scent of fragrance hits your nostrils. It smells good. What came into view next were flowers everywhere. On the ceiling above the head, a chandelier flickered, emitting golden light, making people feel warm like the sun, but unfortunately it seemed to have insufficient energy and seemed to go out at any time. This is. Bai Yi looked stunned, surprised by the scene in the room. There is such a place on a ship. The ground in the entire room is covered with soil and planted with various flowers, as if the purpose of this room's existence is for these flowers. Roses, tulips, redbuds and more. All kinds of flowers can be seen here, they are colorful and very beautiful. But why? Bai Yi was very confused. Wouldn't it be better if such a room was used to grow food in a dark place? Why use it to grow flowers? He couldn't figure it out, so he couldn't help but raise his feet and stepped into the room. After searching with his eyes, he soon saw a colorful flower bud more than 1 meter high in the center of the room. The flower buds were tightly closed, and something seemed to be wrapped inside. The moment he saw this bud, Bai Yi rubbed his eyes, as if he couldn't believe it. It took a while for him to come back to his senses, but there was unconcealable shock on his face. No wonder this room is laid out like this, that's why. He said that in such a room, instead of planting food that is precious in a dark place, all kinds of flowers are planted. What a waste. Originally he didn't understand, but the moment he saw the bud, he understood everything. Coming to the flower buds, Bai Yi carefully broke them off. You can clearly see a girl about the size of the palm of your hand lying inside, like a miniature little person, with fair and smooth skin, cute appearance, and a pair of colorful wings growing on her back. Elf, and a rare flower elf. Bai Yi took a deep breath, excitement faintly showing in his eyes. This is a precious treasure. The strength of the flower elves is not very strong, and is even very weak. It is said that before the arrival of the Dark Land, the flower elves were the weakest existence among the entire branch of the elves. It was not even taken seriously by the elves. But after darkness fell, the status of the flower elves continued to rise, even comparable to the royal family of the elves. The reason lies in the ability of the flower elves. Can cultivate any plant and accelerate the growth of the plant. In the Dark Land, everywhere is swallowed up by black mist, the land is corroded, and there is very little food. Although it does not mean that there is none, it is very difficult to find. Most people grow their own plants. But due to environmental reasons, it is difficult to survive. Therefore, one can imagine how important and precious food is in this hellish place. But with flower elves, all this is no longer a problem. As long as there are flower elves, food can be successfully grown. This is like a well in the desert that can produce water. No one wants to destroy it, but will only take care of it carefully. It's a pity that the flower elf is in poor condition. His face is pale and he is constantly sweating, as if he may die at any time. After Bai Yi looked around, he knew the reason. Lack of adequate soil and nutrients. The essence of the flower spirit is actually this flower bud, which symbolizes the life of the flower spirit. If there is a problem with the flower bud, the flower spirit itself will have problems. When the flower buds grow vigorously, the flower elves will also be healthy and even powerful. This room should be the original greenhouse built specifically for the flower elves. Unfortunately, it is just a room on the ship. Even if those people tried their best, it would still be a pseudo-greenhouse, unable to provide enough nutrients for the flower elves, which resulted in the flower elves being in a very bad condition at the moment. There is even a danger of withering at any time. It's a good thing you met me. Looking at the little guy with a sad look inside the bud, Bai Yi murmured softly. I just got the greenhouse blueprints and found this little guy. I can only say that she didn't deserve to die. Even if a wanderer in a dark place came here and got the blueprint, he wouldn't be able to save her. Because only players can bring out the role of this kind of blueprint. Shaking his head, Bai Yi did not dare to waste any more time. After carefully peeling away the soil at his feet, he picked up the flower buds without damaging the roots and held them in his arms. Then, Bai Yi waved his hand, and all the soil in the room was put into the backpack. In the dark place, these normal soils are also particularly precious. Then, Bai Yi looked up at the chandelier above his head, waved his staff, and an arcane missile shot out, shattering the light bulb. A blazing crystal fell in front of him. You have obtained the sunstone. Close black lens bracket. Bai Yi picked it up with a calm expression, obviously as expected. After looking around again to confirm that nothing was missing, Bai Yi walked out of the room and prepared to return. On the way, Bai Yi saw the device that activated the magic shield, and the body of a mage lying next to it. Time waits for me. Bai Yi sighed, turned and left. He didn't have time to explore slowly. In order to prevent accidents, he had to leave as soon as possible. I finally met a flower elf, but I can't let her suffer here. But on the way out, Bai Yi also collected some useful materials he saw along the way. You picked up the glass. Close black lens bracket. You picked up wood. Close black lens bracket. You picked up iron. Close black lens bracket. You picked up an exquisitely carved seat. Close black lens bracket. You picked up a noble wooden table. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Close black lens bracket. After running all the way down, Bai Yi returned to the deck. There are also many more materials and items in the backpack. Roar, roar, roar. The roars of the deep divers continued. Looking up, there are more and more cracks in the magic shield, as dense as a spider web, and flickering from time to time. I thought that even if it wasn't broken, it would quickly disappear due to lack of energy. Fortunately, there is enough time. Bai Yi raised the corner of his mouth, looked back in the direction of the cabin, waved his staff, and used the divine flame technique. I saw a buzz. The flames condensed and blasted towards the cabin. With a bang, the blazing flames burned the cabin and became more and more intense. After doing this, Bai Yi grabbed the rope and quickly climbed to the watchtower. Hey, what are you holding? Can you eat it? Seeing Bai Yi return, Tiger Mother breathed a sigh of relief and asked curiously. Hearing this, the corners of Bai Yi's mouth twitched, and he felt out of breath. Of course you can't eat it. And Tiger Mother, you are a tiger, the king of beasts, how can you think about eating it every day? Hey, what else can I do if I don't want to eat? I can't go out. You can play with your son. That makes sense. The Tiger Mother's eyes lit up and she immediately became excited. She quickly asked Bai Yi if there was nothing wrong. If nothing happened, she would go to play with her son. Bai Yi gave up and signaled to Tiger Mother to do whatever she wanted. Then, he turned and looked down at the watchtower. The fire grew stronger and stronger. The whole ship was burning. At the same time, the magic shield disappeared without knowing when. The densely packed figures of the deep divers almost instantly swamped the ship. Even under the raging fire, he was not afraid at all. In flames, surrounded by deep ones, the ship exploded with a bang and sank into the floodwaters. In the wind and rain, everything comes and goes quickly. As the ship sank, the monster disappeared. Everything returned to its original appearance, as if nothing happened. Descend from the watchtower into the shelter. Bai Yi took out the greenhouse drawing he just got. Open black lens bracket greenhouse. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. It can be used on the synthesis box. After use, materials can be put in to build a greenhouse blueprint for growing various plants. Close black lens bracket. Materials required for construction. Soil X100. The better the soil investment, the higher the bonus. Glass X100, iron X100, energy materials. You can choose ordinary or extraordinary. Special materials X5. Close black lens bracket. The construction materials of the greenhouse are obviously different from those of the watchtower. Among them, in terms of soil, you can choose to invest in ordinary soil, or perhaps better, such as black soil. In addition, energy materials can also be selected. For example, the materials required for an ordinary greenhouse require a lot of real-life equipment. But if you choose extraordinary materials, you only need one thing. That's right, it's the sun crystal stone that Bai Yi got before. A special crystal that can release energy equivalent to sunlight. This is also the reason why Bai Yi chose to collect so many materials when leaving the ship. Because these are all needed to build a greenhouse. It can be said that Bai Yi gathered most of the materials because of the previous search on the ship. What is missing now are special materials. But the special materials stumped Bai Yi. After all, he knew several suitable materials for greenhouses. But I know, but I can't take it out now. What happened today was an emergency, and he was not prepared at all. The number of synthesis times will also be refreshed tomorrow. In addition to the one time needed to synthesize the dark essence tomorrow, there are still 4 synthesis times left. Although it is possible not to synthesize dark essence for the time being, it is best to find a way to get the best of both worlds. Bai Yi scratched his head, thought for a long time, and decided to plant the flower elves' buds first. Finding a suitable place, Bai Yi temporarily piled a flower pot with stones and planted it. Looking at the painful elf in the bud, Bai Yi took out the last bottle of magic potion and poured it into the soil. Although the substance contained in the magic potion cannot provide enough nutrients, it can still allow the flower buds to persist for 2 more days. But that's about it. He had to find 5 special materials within 2 days. Time passed, and the night passed in the blink of an eye. The next morning, the sky was still foggy, and Bai Yi had already yawned and woke up. He reached out to the bedside. After getting the phone, Bai Yi rubbed his groggy eyes, opened the game, and immediately went to see the flower elf. Fortunately, he is still alive. Then I went to the top of the observation tower to check the weather in the game. As always, the rain is pouring down with no end in sight. But what surprised Bai Yi was that there were 2 more floating treasure chests beside the watchtower. A wooden treasure chest. A black iron treasure chest. Tisk, tisk, that's a good start. Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth, and his mood suddenly became wonderful when he woke up. Take out the hook you made earlier. Relying on his extraordinary operation, the 2 treasure chests were quickly hooked. Hopefully something good will come out. Bai Yi looked expectantly, rubbed his hands, prayed secretly to the goddess of luck, and opened the wooden treasure box. You opened the wooden treasure box and got a copy of Wind Magician's Notes. Close black lens bracket. Quote ? I also spent half a day praying to the goddess of luck, but this is the result. Rubbish. The wonderful mood suddenly stopped being wonderful. Bai Yi curled his lips, and then opened the black iron treasure box. Because the first treasure chest had a dark door, he didn't expect much from the black iron treasure chest, but he didn't expect. You opened the black iron treasure chest and obtained diluted water of life X1, basic professional rune ranger. Close black lens bracket. Holy shit. Bai Yi's eyes were straight for a moment, and he even rubbed his eyes, suspecting that he was hallucinating. After confirming that it was not an hallucination, he burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, the wooden treasure box just now was just a cushion. With my luck, I knew there would be good things in this black iron treasure box. Twists and turns. The mood became wonderful again. Bai Yi clicked on the backpack and started checking it. Diluted water of life. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. In the Forest of Elves, there is the most precious treasure of the elves, the water of life. It is said to have the magical effect of the flesh and bones of the living dead, and can even extend human life, and is coveted by many people. This is a bottle of water of life, but unfortunately it is diluted, but even so it has a powerful healing effect. Close black lens bracket. Basic professional rune ranger. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. After use, you can obtain the extraordinary basic professional ranger, and obtain corresponding specializations and talents, as well as passive blessings. Close black lens bracket. A bottle of eau de vie. A professional rune. I have to say, I was extremely lucky today. Bai Yi even wondered if the goddess of luck had a crush on him. Needless to say, the water of life is absolutely good. Although it is diluted, you can see from the word, powerful, in the introduction that its healing effect is definitely several times that of the recovery potion. It can be used to save life at critical moments. As for professional runes, let alone that. This is something that can give people extraordinary power. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is a treasure at this stage. In reality, it can easily be sold for hundreds of millions. This is definitely not an exaggeration. After all, some players may drop professional runes in the game, but no one is willing to sell them. Everyone is not a fool. Wouldn't it be better if I used it myself? After all, I have become stronger, my exploration has become easier, and my rewards have become more abundant. And because Bai Yi is already a mage, this rune is destined to be traded. It would be nice if it was a mage rune. Bai Yi sighed softly. He had wanted to try synthesizing professional runes for a long time. After all, if professional runes can be synthesized, maybe he can synthesize rarer and more powerful occupations. It's a pity that although I got it now, I can't keep it in my hands. The reason is also very simple. One is greenhouse materials. The second is that he is a mage. Even if the person in front of him is synthesized into a special profession, he will not be able to use it. But with this rune here, at least we don't have to worry about the special materials in the greenhouse. And that's not all. The value of professional runes at this stage is too high. A few special materials are not qualified to be traded. At least close to 100 copies are needed. Thinking of this, Bai Yi couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. At least there is progress. The runes may be gone soon. But similarly, he can also quickly obtain many special materials. It may not all be materials, it may also be some equipment, drawings, etc. In addition, the good news is that the number of synthesis times he has today can be used to synthesize the things he wants to synthesize. Like dark essence. Before combining the 2 dark essences in his backpack, Bai Yi took a screenshot of the professional runes, then exited the game, entered the Nameless One forum, and found Nimeng's contact information. Among the people Bai Yi knows so far, only Wang Si and Nimeng are capable of winning this professional rune. But the difference is that although Wang Si is backed by Yida Group, money clears the way. Compared with Nimeng, a huge organization backed by the government, it is still slightly inferior. However, after thinking about it for a while, Bai Yi decided to send a screenshot to both of them. The reason is simple. When there is competition, the greater the benefits you will gain. He believed that as long as the 2 of them saw the screenshot he sent, they would choose to win this profession at all possible costs. After sending it, the 2 of them were probably busy with work, so they didn't reply immediately. Bai Yi didn't care. He turned around and returned to the game. He took out the contaminated blood from his backpack and used 2 synthesis opportunities to synthesize 2 drops of thin dark blood. After further synthesis, another dark essence was synthesized. After all, no matter what the dark essence can be synthesized in the end, he has to keep one for himself. However, as a result, his number of synthesis today was reduced to 2 in the blink of an eye. Fortunately, my talent has been upgraded once before, otherwise I would have to wait another day. Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth and smiled. Looking at the newly synthesized dark essence in his backpack, he used it directly without hesitation. A prompt immediately appeared on the phone screen. Using dark essence successfully, you gain the skill, Soul Eating Hand. Close black lens bracket. Soul Eating Hand. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. Dark attribute skills, after use, can condense a big black hand to attack. This attack can target the soul, and has a probability of pulling the soul out of the enemy's body and crushing it. When you kill an enemy with this ability, you have a chance to obtain the enemy's memory fragments. Close black lens bracket. Hiss, this skill can actually target the soul. Excitement appeared in Bai Yi's eyes. His first impression after reading the explanation was that this skill was very powerful. Who allows this skill to directly target the soul? The soul has always been extremely mysterious. It is also very fragile. Items that can enhance the soul or defend the soul are also extremely precious. It can be said that this skill is equivalent to giving Bai Yi a chance to deal a fatal blow to the enemy. As long as the soul can be extracted, the enemy can be killed at will, and it is even impossible to prevent it. After all, most people don't know how to defend their souls at all. Thinking of this, Bai Yi couldn't help but exclaimed with a smile on his face. Among dark attribute skills, my skill should be considered top-notch, right? After hesitating for a moment, he took out his staff and waved it lightly, ready to try the consumption of this skill. The next moment, a group of dark elements gathered behind Bai Yi, suddenly turning into a ferocious black hand, as terrifying as a ghost claw. Under the control of Bai Yi's thoughts, the ghost claws also waved like wings. But unfortunately, not long after, Bai Yi came into contact with the skill and said with a pale face. The consumption is indeed not low. The more powerful the skill, the greater the magic power consumption. The consumption of Soul Eating Hand is almost higher than that of Divine Flame. Once released, it will consume at least nearly 4/5 of his magic power. However, he would not release this magic at will under normal circumstances. And with this magic, he will have a new trump card in his hand from now on. Full of security, putting away the staff, Bai Yi recovered his magic power, then rubbed his hands expectantly and smiled. The next step is to synthesize the dark essence. Open the backpack, click once, and select Synthesis. Dark Essence plus Dark Essence. Synthesis begins. I saw a soft white light emerging from the phone screen, and the two dark essences moved closer to the middle, and finally merged into one. Then, a prompt appeared on the screen. Synthesis successful, have you obtained it? A drop of blood. Close black lens bracket. Quote ? Quote. Bai Yi had a black question mark on his face. The synthesis was successful, but why is there not even a name in the prompt, but a question mark? With a trace of doubt, Bai Yi opened his backpack, quickly found the newly synthesized items, and checked them out. As soon as the detailed information was unfolded, before Bai Yi could take a closer look, his pupils suddenly contracted, as if he saw something unbelievable. My breathing also became rapid at this moment. At the same time, Magic City, Night Watch Division. In a conference room, several captains of the Night Watch branch are gathering here to discuss plans for the next development of the Night Watch branch. This includes recruitment, game exploration direction, talent training, and revenge operations against the Dawn organization. Because the incident itself happened in the Magic City, this revenge operation was also led by the Magic City branch. Okay, that's all for this time. After you go down, remember to find a way to recruit more players to join the organization. We currently have too few manpower, and welfare will be improved accordingly. In addition, we will vigorously explore players with special talents, especially those related to support. As long as we recruit one, the organization will receive generous rewards. Wang Zhangguo finished speaking. The famous captains below nodded to express their understanding, but many people rolled their eyes with helpless expressions. How can it be so easy to recruit people these days? Those who want to join the official team have already joined, and those who don't want to join will never join. Not to mention that you still have to recruit players with special talents. More difficult than ever. Fortunately, as captains, they don't have to take action themselves, they can just let their subordinates handle it. End of the meeting. Everyone was also ready to leave. Nimeng had nothing to do today. Thinking of the content of the meeting, he wondered whether he should talk to Bai Yi again. Although Bai Yi cannot be allowed to join them. But it's also good to keep in touch with each other, and at least buy a few more weapons from Bai Yi. She is in charge of several members. With weapons, she can develop her team faster and widen the gap with other teams. While thinking about it, Nimeng took out his mobile phone, ready to play games online at any time. During the meeting, their mobile phones were turned off, so even if something happened, they would not be informed immediately. After turning on the computer, Nimeng did not rush to start the game. Instead, he logged into some chat software to receive messages that he had not received before. Then respond one by one. Wait until the end before logging into the forum and checking the private messages received on the forum. Did Bai Yi also send me a message? Looking at the letter at the top of the page, Nimeng looked surprised and clicked in curiously. A picture comes into view. After clicking on the picture and seeing the content clearly, Nimeng was stunned for a moment, as if he felt like he was hallucinating. He rubbed his eyes and looked again. But the content on the picture has not changed. Gulu, is this true? Nimeng suddenly opened his mouth and stood up suddenly, with an unconcealable expression of excitement on his face. He didn't even notice that the chair under his butt was pushed away because he stood up too hard. But such movement also attracted the attention of others in the conference room. Wang Zhangguo asked strangely, Xiaomeng, what did you see that made you so excited? Nimeng swallowed, took deep breaths to calm down, and then said in surprise. The leader is Bai Yi. He has a professional rune for sale. What, real or fake? After hearing Nimeng's words, Wang Zhangguo also stood up suddenly, with an expression of disbelief on his face. This is a professional rune. Is anyone really willing to sell it? Are you sure you're not joking? Is it really a professional rune? Nima, is this the boss? We don't even have such precious items in the Magic City branch, so they just take them out and sell them. Hurry, contact us and ask if it is true. If it is true, the leader must win. As long as we win, our Magic City branch will have extraordinary professionals. Not only Wang Zhangguo, but also other people in the conference room showed expressions of surprise and urged Nimeng. Nimeng nodded quickly and sent a query message, asking if it was true. Under the tense mood of everyone in the conference room, soon, there was a ding-dong sound, and Bai Yi replied. Nimeng looked away. 111111. It's true, do you want it? Leader, it's confirmed that he really wants to sell professional runes. Nimeng looked excited. Hearing this, Wang Zhengguo burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, okay, very good, Nimeng, you go find Bai Yi now. I will give you an order. No matter what, you must get this professional rune for me. Do you understand? Yes, Nimeng nodded, quickly stood up and left the conference room. P.S. Let me explain in advance. All my chapters are published first and then modified. I will read and modify them as soon as possible after they are published, so after you see the update, you can wait a few minutes before reading it. I should have completed the modification by then. Magic City, office building, 32nd floor. Wang Xi sat in his office, immersed in the game and unable to extricate himself. He had just rented this place to use as the base camp for a guild under his control. Most of the employees outside the office have a mobile phone and are playing games. At this time, Wang Xi kept operating his character on his mobile phone with both hands, dodging the attack of a monster. But the next moment, FK, he died again. Wang Xi threw the phone on the desk, looking helpless. Thinking about the dignified young master of Yida Group, when has he ever felt frustrated while playing games? But let alone, he really experienced it in this game. Without equipment and technology, it was simply not enough for him to enjoy the game. If he was just doing it for fun, it wouldn't be like this. After all, he spent a lot of money to buy a lot of equipment and props during this period. It's just that he handed all these things to a few of his cronies. Those few were professional players with good skills and good operation. The equipment in their hands could have greater effect than in Wang Xi's hands. After all, this game is very special. From Wang Xi's perspective, it can be seen that the emergence of this game may change the world structure in the future. Even if he couldn't see it, his father, a capitalist, could. Therefore, even if he is frustrated in playing, Wang Xi is trying his best to improve the exploration ability of his subordinates so as to bring him more generous rewards. I can't play again today, what will I do next? Looking for 2 internet celebrities. Should we go talk to the boss? I don't know if the boss has any new equipment. Wang Xi lay on the leather seat boredly, thinking about how to enjoy life today. The life of the rich is so simple and unpretentious. The big boss in his mouth naturally refers to Bai Yi. Wang Xi shouted that he was convinced by this big boss call. Not to mention the equipment that he took out, just saying that he is the only player with an extraordinary profession that Wang Xi knows so far is enough to explain the gap between him and other players. When he thought of Bai Yi, Wang Xi had an idea. He quickly sat up and picked up his phone again, preparing to get close to Bai Yi and contact him. By the way, I would like to ask Bai Yi if the character in the game died today. If he died, it would be a good time to take the boss out to play, have a meal and drink, and maybe get a few pieces of equipment from the wine table. As the son of a businessman, Wang Xi is also a businessman. He knows that many business deals cannot be negotiated in ordinary places, but it is easy at the wine table. So he was ready to give it a try. FK. After just clicking into the forum and finding Bai Yi's ID, Wang Xi suddenly stood up and looked at the message sent by Bai Yi with a look of disbelief on his face. But after coming back to his senses, Wang Xi was so excited that he picked up his coat and left the office without hesitation. Take it. This professional rune must be obtained. Ordinary equipment and so on can be used by his subordinates. After all, he does not have that kind of operation. But this professional rune is a precious item that allows people to gain extraordinary power. As long as it is taken, you can gain extraordinary power, and even explore in the game will be easier. Wang Xi began to think about the big boss. For the first time, he was so eager to meet a man. Naturally, Bai Yi didn't know about the situation between Nimeng and Wang Xi. At this moment, Wang Xi was sitting cross-legged on the bed, looking at the item information in the game backpack with a shocked expression. Although a long time has passed, he still has not recovered. In fact, the explanation of this thing greatly exceeded his expectations. Open black lens bracket. A drop of blood. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. He was once the incarnation of darkness, the lord of curses, and a great existence believed by countless creatures. However, due to some terrible and unknown reason, he disappeared. Some say he died and was torn apart by evil gods. Some say he was afraid of the waves of mist and abandoned his followers. No one knows the result. They only know that after some reason, his remains and blood appeared in some places. After use, the magic power will be greatly enhanced, and there is a probability of obtaining a dark attribute talent. Note: everyone can only use it once, regardless of success or failure. Close black lens bracket. Look at this explanation, it reveals the identity of the owner of this drop of blood from the inside out. A god, Bai Yi murmured, looking fearful. As an ordinary person, he is actually not that interested in gods. To put it bluntly, it is because the gap is too big, which leads to the inability to be interested. After all, a random breath from the god could lead to his death. But it is undeniable that any item on the god's body is an extremely precious treasure to him as an ordinary person. Such as this drop of blood. A drop of blood from an unknown god, not even blood essence, can give people a chance of acquiring the same talent. This is a talent. Perhaps the talent obtained is far inferior to his own synthetic hand, but even an ordinary talent can bring huge improvement to Bai Yi. The only pity is that this drop of blood can only be used once. Regardless of whether you have acquired the talent or not, you can only use it once. Thinking of this, a glint flashed in Bai Yi's eyes. Although this drop of blood can only be used once, what if 2 more drops of this blood are used for synthesis? When the time comes, will the synthesized items be able to obtain 100% talent? He does not know. This is just a guess. But the probability is still there. However, Bai Yi couldn't help but feel his scalp numb when he thought about the number of times it took to synthesize. If you really want to do this, you will have to squeeze out a few days of synthesis and spend it all here. Instead, Bai Yi thought he could take a gamble. Win the bet and earn blood. If you lose the bet, you can synthesize it in the future, and it can also enhance the magic power, which is not a loss. Thinking of this, Bai Yi clicked on the blood and chose to use it directly. The next moment, a dark energy suddenly appeared on Bai Yi in the real world, surrounding him like a cocoon. No pain, no discomfort either. On the contrary, it has an icy and cool refreshing feeling. Bai Yi's eyes were dark and he couldn't see anything. But vaguely, he seemed to feel that there was some kind of energy in his body, weaving his heart. I don't know how much time has passed. The black light dissipated. Bai Yi regained his sight. He clenched his fists and subconsciously felt the condition of his body. The magic power has increased a lot. Bai Yi exclaimed. Compared with before, the magic power increased by about 3 times. If Bai Yi's magic value was 5 points before, it has reached 20 points now. This is a huge improvement. In this way, Bai Yi can even release the Divine Flame technique 10 times in a row. Combat power surges. Of course, compared to the other change, the increase in magic power is not that important. With a wave of his hand, the staff in Bai Yi's hand appeared out of thin air. The next moment, the staff waved. The soul-eating hand suddenly condensed and grabbed into the void, and the howling wind swept across. There was not only excitement in Bai Yi's eyes. The magic power consumption has been reduced. The power seems to be stronger than before. Because there is no goal, the feeling is not very clear. But there is no doubt that he was gifted. And in terms of feeling, it is a powerful talent that increases combat power. Bai Yi lowered his head and picked up the mobile phone in front of him. He had not noticed it before because he had just awakened his talent. Only now did he notice that as he awakened his talent, a prompt appeared on the screen of his mobile phone. You have awakened a new talent, Darling of Darkness. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Dark Beloved. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. You are the Darling of Darkness. You are born close to darkness and are watched by darkness. Under the effect of this talent, the cost of all dark attribute skills you cast will be reduced by 30%, and the power will be increased by 30%. Close black lens bracket. What a strong talent. Looking at the introduction on the screen, Bai Yi raised the corners of his mouth and looked excited. Although he had felt it before, after seeing the explanation now, he fully understood the ability of the new talent he had obtained. As expected, it is a talent that greatly improves combat effectiveness. Not only can it reduce the consumption of all dark attribute skills, but it can also enhance its power. Although it's limited to dark attribute skills, it doesn't matter, he just has it. Even if there is only one, the power of the talent can be fully exerted. It's a pity that the dark essence can only be used once, otherwise with this talent, it would be invincible. Bai Yi said with regret. But he understands the principle of greed being insufficient. Although sometimes people's greed is difficult to control. In short, Bai Yi already had a smile on his face and looked very happy because he had received a new and powerful talent. Find the attribute in the game and click on it. The attribute panel that I hadn't seen for a long time slowly appeared in front of me. Open black lens bracket Bai Yi. Close black lens bracket. Extraordinary sequence. Mage. Close black lens bracket. Level 1. Close black lens bracket. Professional skills. Divine Flame, Soul Eating Hand, Arcane Missile. Close black lens bracket. Professional talent. Meditation. Close black lens bracket. Professional specialization. Elemental affinity. Close black lens bracket. Equipment. Enchanted Rotten Sword, Qingliu Bracelet, Flame Ring, Screamer Leather Armor, Qingfeng Boots, Magic Staff, Magic Necklace. Close black lens bracket. Talent. Synthetic Hand, Darling of Darkness. Close black lens bracket. In just a week or so, his attribute panel has undergone tremendous changes from scratch. After Bai Yi saw it, a look of satisfaction appeared on his face. If this panel of mine were released, I would probably make a lot of people jealous to death, right? Ha ha ha. Apart from anything else, this piece of equipment will definitely make people's eyes turn red with envy. Nothing is ordinary, all have their own unique effects. Not to mention that in addition to equipment, skills, talents, etc. are all beyond the reach of other players. Of course, Bai Yi had no intention of showing off. After all, killing players can drop items on the player, and he doesn't want to be hunted down by players around the world. Let alone letting go of this attribute of his, it is really possible to cause this kind of situation. After admiring his powerful panel, Bai Yi was ready to use up the last number of synthesis times. Contaminated blood can indeed synthesize good things, but unfortunately Bai Yi has already used what he should use. Although he continues to synthesize it, he can try using a drop of blood from to synthesize it. But it will consume many synthesis times. Not a waste. Rather, it will delay his development. With his current strength, it is completely enough to deal with most of the following situations, so there is no rush to increase his strength. In contrast, it is a better choice to continue to synthesize items that are helpful to the shelter. So, K Ling Shuanjin +1. After the synthesis, Bai Yi went to see the flower elf again. It was not as painful as yesterday. It was probably because of the magic potion, but he couldn't hold on for long. Fortunately, at this time, there was a knock on the door. Coming. Bai Yi's eyes lit up, he immediately got out of bed, came outside the room and opened the door. What caught his eye was Nimeng with an expectant look on his face. Before Bai Yi could speak, Nimeng couldn't wait to say. Bai Yi, tell me directly, what do you want to trade with professional runes? As long as it's not too outrageous, I can make the decision and agree to trade with you. Hearing this, Bai Yi's mouth twitched. So urgent, don't we want to talk anymore? No, let's deal first. Nimeng shook her head. She was not in the mood to chat, and the chat was only after the transaction was over. After all, getting it early will give you peace of mind. But it's a pity that Bai Yi wants to talk. Come in first, it's impossible to trade with you now. Why? Nimeng looked confused. Because someone will come later. Bai Yi explained. Hearing this, Nimeng looked startled, but after thinking about it for a while, he showed a look of surprise. Wangxi, I understand. She followed Bai Yi into the house and sat down on the sofa. At first she was a little anxious to get the professional runes, but now she has calmed down. She knew that the other person Bai Yi was talking about was most likely Wangxi. After all, because of speculation about Bai Yi's talent, they paid close attention to Bai Yi, including some people who often communicated with Bai Yi. As for Bai Yi calling Wangxi, Nimeng immediately understood the reason, but he didn't care. Without him, she has enough confidence. After all, she is an official. Backed by the official, Even if Bai Yi asks for a high price, as long as it is within a reasonable range, she does not believe that anyone can beat her. Even if there is nothing good in the Magic City, as long as you apply to the higher authorities and explain that it is for professional runes, the higher authorities will not hesitate to send a large amount of resources for support. Ni Meng was not in a hurry at all, and even leisurely picked up the tea Bai Yi made in front of him and tasted it. After taking a sip, Ni Meng looked at Bai Yi and said complicatedly, "Speaking of which, your luck is so unbelievable that you can even obtain professional runes, and you are willing to sell them. Does this mean you have already obtained a professional rune? I thought you saw it in the market that time," Bai Yi said unexpectedly. Ni Meng shook his head. There was speculation at the time, but there was no confirmation. After all, it is not impossible that you used ordinary skills. But now it's confirmed. Her eyes became more complicated. 2 professional runes. There are so many great equipments. I don't want to know, I'm scared when I think about it. Is this man the son of Goddess Luck? The game has only been out for a while, but it already has so many good things. Although those equipment may be related to the opponent's talent, wouldn't it be even more outrageous to be able to awaken such a talent? Bai Yi noticed Ni Meng's eyes, and after thinking about it, he probably understood the reason, and couldn't help but grin. Don't be envious, it's useless to be envious. Go, the devil will envy you. Ni Meng subconsciously rolled his eyes in denial. But to be honest, she found that she really envied Bai Yi's luck. More than just envy, it was even the first time that I started to be jealous of a man. The sky was gloomy, with dark clouds. With the lights on in the living room, under the bright white light, Ni Meng restrained her complicated thoughts, holding a teacup and chatting with Bai Yi about various things in the game, and waiting for Wang Si's arrival. Bai Yi asked, "The overall number of your official players should be quite large, right? Are there any new discoveries in the game?" "There are indeed a lot of players, but dividing them into various cities in the country seems to be too much." "But what do you mean by this?" Ni Meng looked confused. Bai Yi smiled and said, "For example, a creature that can talk." Ni Meng had a thoughtful look on his face, as if he was considering whether the next question to be answered was considered secret. After a moment, she shook her head and said, "There are indeed creatures that can talk, but not all of them are friendly. As far as I know, in addition to those monsters in the game, some intelligent creatures are more dangerous. If you encounter them in the future, you'd better be more careful." "Oh, it looks like you have met him before." "Certainly." Ni Meng nodded. "Some races seem to be hostile to humans. They will attack players as soon as they see them. They have caused some losses to us. But fortunately there are not many such enemies, at least not many times we have encountered them so far." "Not much. That's not necessarily the case. Bai Yi knows that there are few encounters now, just because the Dark Land is too big and the number of players is too small compared to the global population, so naturally there are fewer discovered. In fact, there are still many intelligent creatures in the Dark Land. After all, it is the fusion of one world after another. Especially in addition to wanderers, there are many creatures who have built their own shelters, forces, etc. in the Dark Land. There are many races that are hostile to humans. They probably think that the coming of darkness is related to humans, and that humans have destroyed their homes. The gaming period is fine now. When darkness comes to the earth, it will be a chaotic dance of demons. It's not just a battle between players. There are even more creatures from the dark places mixed in. In short, the world will be crazy by then." Shaking his head, Bai Yi continued to chat with Ni Meng. After a while, there was a knock on the door. The two stopped talking at the same time. Bai Yi opened the door and Wang Si was standing at the door, looking excited. After seeing him, Wang Si couldn't help but said excitedly, "Boss, you have too many good things. You are even willing to sell professional runes. I rushed here as soon as I received your message. I want to order this professional rune. Boss, please give me a price." Bai Yi smiled and reminded, "Come in and talk about it. It's too early for you to be happy. I'm not the only one who informed you." "Huh, are there others?" Wang Si followed Bai Yi, and when he heard his words, his face suddenly showed bitterness. "I thought I was the only one notified. One more person means more competition." Especially when he saw Ni Meng sitting in the living room, Wang Si felt even more uncomfortable. Still an official. It's like saying that he wants to compete with the official this time. How can he win? Wang Si still knows a lot about himself. He has established more than one guild, and the number of players is not small, but compared to the official ones, they are obviously not on the same level. But he didn't want to give up, so he didn't leave. After sitting down, he couldn't help but ask first. Boss, tell me directly, what are you planning to trade for this professional rune? Of course it's an item in the game. Special materials, special metals, blueprints, etc. are all fine, but there must be 5 pieces of elemental gold in them. Bai Yi looked down on ordinary materials and was not qualified to trade professional runes. As for real money, he would choose to trade professional runes for this thing because of his stupidity. Hear the words. Ni Meng and Wang Si's expressions remained unchanged and they were expecting something. Even after hearing Bai Yi's answer, he breathed a sigh of relief. At least in this regard, he is somewhat competitive. If Bai Yi really trades real currency, he really can't afford it. After all, although his family has money, he still looks at his competitors. No matter how rich you are, it is impossible to compare with the official. However, game items are also a problem. The two of them immediately began to think deeply, thinking about what kind of resources they should use to get the professional runes from Bai Yi. As for the elemental spirit gold, this is the material Bai Yi intends to use as a greenhouse. And both of them have it in their hands. The amount of 5 yuan is a lot for ordinary players, but they can still get it, so they don't care. After some consideration, Ni Meng and Wang Si both took out their mobile phones, obviously notifying the people behind them or their subordinates to prepare a list of resources before making a selection. Seeing this, Bai Yi was not in a hurry and patiently played with his phone and browsed the forum. Some interesting posts made Bai Yi smile involuntarily. For example, some players felt that the game was too real, and even tried to control the characters themselves to perform an ancestral craft in the game, and the results were really good. Some players were unable to explore due to flooding in the game, so they simply did premonition fishing and actually caught several treasure chests. There are also players who have played Minecraft too much. After making a draft, they started digging underground in the shelter. As a result, the waterproofing effect of the shelter was destroyed, and the shelter suddenly flooded. They are all talents. Bai Yi looked so happy that he couldn't help but sigh. The first player in particular is simply a talent among talents. After scrolling for a while, Wang Sikai handed over the phone and said, "Boss, I don't have many special materials here. This is the limit of what I can produce. What do you think?" Bai Yi took it and looked at it curiously, with a look of surprise on his face. On the phone is a list written by Wang Si. I have to say, there are a lot of good things in it. The first is Elemental Spirit Gold X5, Deep Sea Black Iron X10, Absolute Spiritual Stone X10, Mithril X10. Then there are 2 drawings. They are Purification Channel and Prisoner Prison respectively. How to say, it's actually pretty good, whether it's special metal or drawings. Among metals, the Absolute Spirit Stone is the same, and the other Deep Sea Black Iron and Mithril are very good. Especially Mithril. The Purification Channel in the drawing also made Bai Yi very excited. But Bai Yi did not give an answer immediately, but looked at Ni Meng. Ni Meng raised her red lips and smiled lightly. I've also made a list here, you can take a look. Good. Bai Yi took the phone and looked at it carefully. As soon as he glanced at it, he couldn't help but take a breath. Damn, is this official? There are so many good things. The list is all resources available for trading listed by the Magic City branch. Metal ore, fur material, there are also drawings and so on. There's even a skill rune or 2 to choose from. In contrast, Wang Si's side suddenly seemed a bit petty. After just one glance, Bai Yi cast an apologetic look at Wang Si. Wang Si obviously felt it, and the corner of his mouth twitched, showing an uncomfortable expression. Boss, you don't have fun like this. I came here so excitedly, you can't let me leave empty-handed like this, right? Ahem, don't worry, it won't happen. Bai Yi touched his nose and felt that he was not doing well. It was obvious that he wanted to sell it to the authorities from the beginning, and he called others to help him raise the price so that he could make more money. It was a bit embarrassing to have people leave empty-handed in the end. So Bai Yi also had an idea in his mind, but didn't say it out loud. But Wang Si and Ni Meng were both smart people, and they heard it right away. Wang Si's eyes suddenly lit up and he raised the corners of his mouth. This is what you said, boss. You can't go back on it. Although I didn't get professional runes, it would be nice to get other good things. As for Nimeng, although he really wanted to ask Bai Yi if he would sell anything later, he thought about it and didn't ask. Forget it, just take off the professional runes. No matter what deal Bai Yi wants to make with Wang Si later, it will definitely not be as valuable as professional runes. In this case, she was too lazy to compete with Wang Si. In response to Wang Si's words, Bai Yi nodded and said no. Immediately he looked at Nimeng's cell phone in his hand. After pondering for a while, he selected a few items on the phone, handed it over, and said, I want these, how about it? No problem, I'll have it delivered right away. Nimeng took one look, nodded immediately, and then made a phone call. Bai Yi wants a lot of things. And it's all he needs. Part of it is occupied by special metals, followed by blueprints and skill runes. Details as follows. Elemental Spirit Gold X5. Mithril X10. Town Stone X10. Volcanic Stone X10. Magic Stone X10. Skill Rune. Absorb Shield. A Hot Spring Drawing. A Study Drawing. A piece of professional rune can be exchanged for so many things. It can be said that you have made a lot of money. Among them, Absorb Shield is a dark attribute skill, which can use magic power to condense a dark element shield to absorb damage. It was specially chosen by Bai Yi to match his newly acquired talent. And the Hot Spring Drawings, and the Study Drawings. To be honest, these two are not as good as the drawings provided by Wang Si. But not bad. Hot Spring Drawings are for enjoying relaxation. As for the study room, if the materials are used well, there will be additional flash of inspiration entries that will be of great use in the future. Metal ores were also chosen by Bai Yi after careful consideration. Except for the study drawings, all the items obtained from the transaction can be used by him now. After confirming the transaction, the speed of the Magic City official was very fast. In less than 3 or 4 minutes, Bai Yi heard a knock on the door. After opening the door, a young man in black stood at the door, looking at Bai Yi with excitement, and quickly extended his hand to say hello. Hello, boss. My name is Sun Bo. I'm here to deliver something to Captain Ni. Okay, please come in. Bai Yi invited in with a smile. Sun Bo immediately said to Nimeng, Captain, the things are here, do you think I should give them to you first? Leave it directly to Bai Yi. Nimeng ordered. Hearing this, Sun Bo nodded, took out all the resources from his backpack, and handed them to Bai Yi one by one. Wang Si on the side looked at it and clicked his tongue. Compared with the official stuff, what he brought out was indeed much less. No wonder Bai Yi chose the official stuff. He was a little disappointed after missing out on the professional runes, but fortunately, Bai Yi's words just now gave him some comfort and a bit of expectation. Soon, all the resources were obtained. After Bai Yi counted them, he determined that there were no problems, so he took out the professional runes and handed them to Nimeng. Nimeng quickly tied the knot, carefully looked at it to make sure there was nothing wrong, then showed a happy smile and said, Bai Yi, I got the things and I'm leaving. She couldn't wait to go back. Although she got the thing, this was only the first step. As one of the captains of the Night Watch, she still had to find a way to get this thing into her team. Goodbye. Bai Yi nodded without holding back. Nimeng was about to leave when he suddenly thought of something. He looked back at Bai Yi and winked playfully. Bai Yi, remember to contact me next time if you have something good. Don't worry, it won't happen. Bai Yi smiled slightly. But he rolled his eyes in his heart. Woman, now they actually know how to use honey traps. It's a pity that it is of no use to myself. Although Nimeng is very beautiful, she is a rose with thorns and cannot be touched. In comparison, the elves and succubi in the Dark Land are more attractive. The most important thing is that once you meet someone, you will completely belong to yourself, and you don't have to worry about betrayal. This is the most important thing. After watching Nimeng leave, Wang Si could no longer hold back and asked excitedly. Boss, that woman is gone, can you tell me what other goodies you have now? Hearing this, Bai Yi touched his nose and showed an embarrassed smile. Ahem, you're overthinking, no. What, no, boss, are you kidding? Wang Si was dumbfounded and even felt that Bai Yi was playing with him. Bai Yi explained with a smile. Don't worry, I do have nothing left, but that doesn't mean I can't make a deal with you. Oh, Wang Si looked startled, as if he thought of something. He immediately calmed down and asked. Boss, what do you mean? I can help you build your equipment. After finishing speaking, Wang Si didn't wait for excitement. Bai Yi raised a finger and said again. There's only one thing, don't think too much about it. Seeing this, Wang Si, who had just become happy, was dumbfounded again. Boss, you don't bring this for fun, do you? What can one piece of equipment do? How about making a few more? The weapon I made for you is not an ordinary weapon. There is only one, so don't worry about more. Not an ordinary weapon, could it be? Wang Si was shocked, and an excited smile suddenly appeared on his face. Bai Yi nodded and smiled. Yes, it is a weapon with extraordinary abilities. Of course, you have to provide the materials yourself. At the same time, I also need to collect special ores as a reward. Is that okay? Ha ha ha, no problem, absolutely no problem, what's the problem with this? Wang Si laughed and nodded quickly. Now that he has extraordinary weapons, it's not too late for him to be happy. Although I didn't get professional runes, the extraordinary weapon was definitely an unexpected surprise. After discussing it, Wang Si left. Bai Yi also explained to him clearly that it was okay to forge weapons, but the materials would be at your own expense, and he would need 3 special metal ores. The materials include weapon embryos, special metals, etc. Strictly speaking, this is Bai Yi's attempt. He takes this opportunity to solidify his forging talent and set a price. Even if others come to him to forge weapons in the future, he can follow this times price situation comes. Of course, it doesn't mean it won't change, it's just an example, but it will definitely not go down, it will only go up. After Wang Si left, Bai Yi also began to sort out today's gains. The first is the skill rune, which must be used directly. In an instant he learned a new magic, absorbing shields. Bai Yi also used it. After he waved his staff, dark energy emerged from his body, turning into a barrier to envelop him. The strength of the absorption shield is not low. Can withstand a lot of damage. In times of danger, this shield is enough to withstand many deadly crises. In addition to skill runes, there are some materials and drawings. Among them, elemental spirit gold goes without saying that this special metal has a great effect. Elemental spirit gold looks like a colorful metal on the outside. While it is colorful, it actually contains many different elemental attributes energy inside. That's why it was named elemental spirit gold. In the previous life, this was a good material for forging weapons. But Bai Yi chose to use it as the construction material of the greenhouse because the special terms it brought were very suitable for Bai Yi's idea of the greenhouse. As for others, such as mountain holding stones, volcanic stones, magic stones, etc., they all have their own uses. The mountain holding stone is for the evolution of the shelter. It is a very thick stone, known as the mountain holding stone. As the evolution material of the shelter, it can greatly enhance the strength and physical defense of the shelter. The volcanic stone is used in the hot spring drawing. Magic stone is a blue stone that contains magic power inside. It is not used at the moment. Bai Yi just wants to see if it can be synthesized. After all, he is a mage, and the more items that can increase his magic power, the better. Putting everything away, Bai Yi clicked on the game and controlled the character to come to the bud of the flower elf. Little one, you'll wake up soon. Bai Yi took out the greenhouse drawings with a smile. The materials have been prepared, and after all the investment has been made, construction can begin directly after selecting the location. A dazzling light immediately appeared on the phone screen. After a while, the light disappeared. A greenhouse appears in the right corner at the very back of the shelter. It occupies an area of about 100 square meters. Half of the entire wall is made of 3 layers of wood, stone and iron. The inner layer is made of wooden boards, but it is covered with grass. The other half is made of glass, so you can clearly see what's going on inside from the outside. The greenhouse also has a glass door. After opening the door, you can see that it is a greenhouse, but it is like an open space in the wild, covered with soil. There are also water outlets on the 4 corners of the greenhouse, but they are not currently connected to the water source. On the ceiling, there are 5 light bulbs. One of them is a fluorescent lamp that emits sunlight. The other 4 are derived from the 4-season lamps brought by the elemental spirit gold. Temperatures in 4 seasons can be simulated at all times. Open black lens bracket greenhouse. Close black lens bracket. Description. Special building of the shelter. Close black lens bracket. Feature 1. 4 seasons. The greenhouse can adjust the most suitable seasonal temperature according to the plants grown. Close black lens bracket. Characteristic 2. Light energy. The sunlight emitted in the greenhouse will provide more nutrients to the plants planted to a certain extent. Close black lens bracket. Characteristic 3. Planting. Any plant can be grown in the greenhouse, whether ordinary or extraordinary, but the growth of extraordinary plants cannot be guaranteed. Close black lens bracket. Pulling out the shelter panel and looking at the introduction of the greenhouse, Bai Yi's eyes brightened. I have to say that because of the elemental spirit gold, the entries for the greenhouse are pretty good. It is a pity that the soil quality is not good. If better soil is used, the quality of the greenhouse can definitely be improved. But there is no way, the darkness has not yet fallen, and it is impossible to use materials from reality. Floods broke out in the game world again, and it was extremely difficult to find suitable soil, so we had to make do with it. Step into the greenhouse. Bai Yi looked around, shook his head and sighed. The area is still too small and can only be used to grow some special plants. He does not expect to use the greenhouse to ensure his future food stability. How much food can be grown on the same area as Bai Liping? Besides, it is impossible for him to be the only one in the future shelter. As a reborn person, he is ambitious. I will definitely build a big farm and ranch in the shelter in the future. Of course, this does not mean that the role of the greenhouse is smaller. On the contrary, the role of the greenhouse is also great, and it can be specially used to grow extraordinary plants. In the dark land, many extraordinary plants have powerful effects. Just like some natural treasures, very precious. For example, some special potions also require extraordinary plants as materials. The greenhouse has been built, and Bai Yi did not dare to waste time, so he immediately transplanted the flower elf's body and planted it in the middle. As Bai Yi was buried in the soil, the sunlight from the fluorescent lamp above his head became much warmer. Obviously, the greenhouse is equivalent to the ability to automate. After detecting the true nature of the flower elf, it is automatically adjusting the temperature so that the flower elf can recover better. At the same time, the nutrients contained in the sunlight are better than ordinary sunlight and are more suitable for the growth of plants. It's a pity it's not infinite energy. Bai Yi looked at the fluorescent lamp above his head and narrowed his eyes slightly. The core of the fluorescent lamp is just a sunstone, which does not mean that the energy is unlimited. It cannot always emit sunlight, so it needs to be supplemented. But at present, there are certainly no supplementary means. But fortunately, I was able to persist for at least a month. By then, the dark place has come to reality. After transforming the shelter, I will have the ability to supplement it. Apart from anything else, the walls inside the watchtower can be described as starry spots at this time. Looking in the dark environment, it looks like countless fireflies flying in the wall. The reason is that the watchtower absorbs light sources all the time and turns them into energy reserve walls. Although the current energy absorption is not much due to the current environment, the long-term accumulation is not small. When the time comes, the energy from the watchtower alone will be enough to support the greenhouse. Shaking his head, Bai Yi gently pulled the bud and looked at the flower elf inside. Visibly to the naked eye, it has become much rosier. I think I'll wake up soon. Flower elf. He didn't have this thing in his previous life. I can only look at other people's experiences and feel envious and jealous in my heart. But in this life, he can also make others envious, jealous, and hateful. After staying in the shelter for a while, Bai Yi came to the watchtower to see if there was a treasure chest that could be fished out. Open the door on the top floor. Looking around, it's the same as always. The flood surged, swallowing up everything like a giant beast from ancient times. In the turbid flood, many monsters flashed through the water, which made people feel numb. But suddenly, Bai Yi raised his eyebrows, an expression of surprise suddenly appeared on his face. The rain has lightened up. In the past game world, the heavy rain could be felt just by listening to the sound. But at this moment, the rain in the dark place gradually became smaller and turned into a steady drizzle. This only illustrates one possibility. The natural disaster is gradually fading. This thought came to mind, which made Bai Yi couldn't help but smile on his face. This is definitely good news. In this way, he can quickly explore the game world to his heart's content. I just hope the flood will recede as soon as possible. After looking down for a few times, there was no trace of the treasure box, so Bai Yi could only return to the shelter, then turned off the game, called out the little tiger, and watched Taobao while watching TV shows. Time flies. After dinner, night fell. Bai Yi went to bed very early. After taking a bath and drying his hair, he hugged the little tiger and went to bed to rest. The night is getting darker. But the bustling city of Magic City has just entered its lively moment. Neon lights and busy traffic. For many, nightlife has just begun. At the same time, outside Bai Yi's home, two figures came over and were looking faintly at the window of Bai Yi's room. They have blonde hair and blue eyes. They can be identified as foreigners at a glance. They wear casual clothes and are no different from foreigners visiting the Magic City. At this time, one of them took out his mobile phone and looked at the time, then whispered. The time is almost up. You can prepare to take action, solve the problem as soon as possible, and leave the country as soon as possible. Hearing this, the other person frowned and asked, before taking action, I must ask you one more thing. Are you sure you can escape unscathed? This man is a player who has gained extraordinary power. It would be fine if he were killed, but this time he is kidnapped, and it needs to be done without alerting other people. Are you sure you can accomplish it? If we don't get it right, we may all die here. Don't worry, I've already prepared it. Newt grinned, his heart moved, and a scarlet light flashed in his eyes. Although he has extraordinary abilities, why don't I? Seeing this, the blonde gringo next to him was shocked and felt a chill inexplicably. But then a smile appeared on his face. You actually have extraordinary abilities. It's unbelievable, but it's no wonder your organization dares to take action against Daxia. In that case, I have confidence in you. I will wait for you here. As long as you bring the person out, I can guarantee that he will be sent abroad tonight. Newt nodded. Then just wait for my good news. After speaking, he walked towards Bai Yi's house. Taking one step forward seems to melt into the darkness until it disappears completely. In the room, Bai Yi turned on the air conditioner and lay comfortably on the bed, covering his stomach with the air conditioner quilt. Next to him, a little tiger with white fur was lying on his neck, sleeping soundly. The tiger mother was lying on the sofa, her ears moving from time to time without resting. As a cat, like many people who are just starting out in the nightlife, it is also in high spirits at this time. However, because both Bai Yi and the tiger cub were sleeping, the tiger mother did not make any noise. She only opened her eyes from time to time to look around, or licked her paws, appearing very quiet. Suddenly, the tiger mother seemed to notice something. She raised her head and looked in the direction of the door, with a sharp look in her eyes. Immediately afterwards, it walked quietly to the door without making any sound. Just like many beasts in animal world, before hunting, they lowered their bodies and made an offensive posture. There was a click. The next moment, the door opened, revealing a gap. Newt stood outside the door, putting away the wire in his hand, with a disdainful smile on his lips. Before becoming a mercenary, he was a killer. He learned this little lock-picking skill very early and maintained his proficiency at all times. Such a door would not be difficult for him at all. Instead of rushing in, he stood outside the door and glanced inside through the gap. The room was dark, but it didn't prevent Newt from seeing everything clearly. Ever since he gained extraordinary power, he found that he could clearly see everything in front of him even at night. Everything in the room came into his sight. What a lucky guy. When he saw Bai Yi sleeping on the bed, a glint flashed in his eyes, and there was a hint of jealousy. Through some intelligence, he knew that Bai Yi's talent was related to forging. This talent simply made him jealous. Although he himself also has talents, for strength enhancement, he can explode with more than twice his own strength, which greatly increases his combat power. But in the gaming world, such talents are not popular. It's okay against regular corruptors. It is useless against some powerful monsters. Because to put it bluntly, after all, they are still mortal bodies, and they will die instantly in front of those powerful monsters. Unless you are lucky enough to find the treasure chest and get good things from the treasure chest. But where is the treasure chest so easy to find? At this stage, the treasure chests most people encounter most are wooden treasure chests. The black iron and bronze on it are extremely rare. The silver and gold treasure chest is something that 99 out of 100 players have never seen before. Trying to find good equipment from a wooden treasure chest is no less than winning a lottery ticket. At this stage, the best way for players to become stronger is through equipment. Good equipment is enough for ordinary players to kill monsters with extraordinary abilities. Although it is only a relative term, at least equipment is easier to obtain than extraordinary abilities. In short, in the current game, if you have equipment, you can explore further, discover more good things, and be able to defeat monsters when you encounter them. Without equipment, even a mercenary like Newt with high combat experience and physical fitness would die accidentally at the hands of an extraordinary monster. Therefore, Newt is very envious and even jealous of Bai Yi's talent. If he had such a talent, why would the Dawn organization end up like this? Maybe through his talent, he had killed many powerful monsters and even gained extraordinary power early on. In this way, even Daxia's revenge action might be able to counterattack. But it's a pity that he doesn't have it. He only has an ordinary strength enhancement. The Dawn organization is also about to be wiped out due to Daxia's revenge actions. But it doesn't matter, now I'm here. Newt licked his lips, an excited smile on his face. As long as Bai Yi is captured and brought back successfully, Dawn will rise again. The emergence of this game represents a new era in the future. With Bai Yi in hand, he is confident that he will reach a new level in the coming Dawn. If he is more lucky, he can kill some powerful monsters and obtain some high-grade treasure chests with the help of the equipment made by Bai Yi. Maybe there will be a chance to become the king of the new era. When he thought of this, Newt's eyes couldn't help but become fiery, filled with ambition that couldn't be concealed. After taking a deep breath, Newt calmed down and continued to observe any dangers in the past. Suddenly, he saw the little tiger lying next to Bai Yi's neck, and his expression was stunned, and a look of doubt immediately appeared in his eyes. Tiger, it looks like a young tiger, but isn't Daxia not allowed to keep this kind of animal? Why does this guy have one in his house? And it's still a white tiger. Could it be that it's in the game? Newt's eyes lit up, and greed immediately appeared in his eyes. He knew that the creatures in the game could be realized in reality. There are no ordinary creatures in the game. Could this tiger be an extraordinary creature? If so, once he obtains it, wouldn't it mean that he has an extraordinary fighter? He is indeed a lucky guy. He can even encounter such a creature, but it doesn't matter. He will be mine soon, ha ha ha. The corner of Newt's mouth raised. After confirming that there was no danger, he opened the door and prepared to go in and take action. But the moment the door opened, a pair of green eyes suddenly appeared in front of him. Newt saw it for the first time and was shocked. And when he saw the owner of these pupils clearly, his whole body froze and he broke into a cold sweat. This is actually a huge white tiger. Shit. This guy actually summoned a tiger with a child in the game. Newt's heart was pounding. People naturally feel fear when facing fierce beasts, even if he is a mercenary. More importantly, he felt a fatal threat from the white tiger in front of him. Obviously, this white tiger is just like what he had guessed about the little tiger before, possessing extraordinary power. Fark, why isn't this news in my intelligence? Newt cursed in his mind and wanted to run away immediately. Fortunately, I have obtained extraordinary power from the hands of my god. Even if I face an extraordinary beast, I may not be unable to escape. Thinking of the power he had, Newt felt grateful. At the same time, he lowered his body, raised his hands, and slowly backed away, wanting to show the tiger in front of him that he had no ill intentions. But the next moment, a faint bloody light suddenly appeared in his pupils. Tiger Mother instantly sensed the malice, and without waiting for Newt to make any more moves, she roared, and biting cold air suddenly spurted out. Buzz! A bloody light also shot out from Newt's pupils. But under the cold air, he was instantly crushed. A clicking sound sounded. Newt was instantly frozen into an ice sculpture. The Tiger Mother blew out a wisp of white breath from her nose, and a look of disdain flashed in her eyes. I originally thought he was a powerful guy, but he was happy for a long time because of the loss, thinking that he could finally repay Bai Yi for feeding him for so many days. I didn't expect it to be so weak. Rookie. The tiger mother turned back to the bed and gently pushed Bai Yi with her paw. Tiger mom, what's wrong? Bai Yi rubbed his eyes drowsily and looked at the tiger mother in front of him with a confused look on his face. Tiger mother pointed to the ice sculpture on the side and gestured. FK, what the hell? Bai Yi turned around, startled, and looked at the tiger mother with even more confusion. Roar, you said this person is an enemy. How do you know? Roar, you sensed malice, and you found this person coming in the same way you were about to hunt. That's it, I understand. Bai Yi nodded, with a look of surprise on his face. Then he looked at the ice sculpture with a look of pity on his face. Tell me, who are you looking for, but me? Why did Bai Yi sleep so soundly and not be afraid of danger at all? It's all because he calls out the tiger mother every night when he goes to bed. At most, people keep a dog to guard the door. Bai Yi is a big tiger here. And he is still a big tiger with extraordinary abilities. Shaking his head, Bai Yi got out of bed curiously, turned on the light in the room, and observed the ice sculpture. Only then did he see clearly that the person in the ice sculpture was actually a blonde foreigner. Strange, why would a foreigner want to cause trouble for me? Bai Yi frowned, feeling confused. In his memory, he has never offended anyone abroad. Etc. Is it the Dawn organization? Bai Yi was startled suddenly, his eyes flickering. Although it was not his fault, it was also his own fault that led to the failure of the previous market operation of the Liming organization. If it was because of this incident, then it would be normal for him to be targeted by the Dawn organization. It seems like I can't let you go. A coldness flashed in Bai Yi's eyes, and with a wave of his right hand, the magic staff appeared in his palm. With a thought in his heart, a soul-eating hand like a ghost claw appeared behind him and swung towards the ice sculpture. When dealing with his enemies, Bai Yi always follows the idea of eradicating the roots. I saw a transparent figure being pulled out with the wave of the soul-eating hand. A buzzing sound. The soul-eating hand held the transparent figure and exerted force suddenly. This figure was shattered into pieces. At the same time, many memory fragments suddenly appeared in Bai Yi's mind. Dawn organization. Newt. Kidnapping. Evil god statue. Plan. Bai Yi accepted and checked all the memories, and the corners of his mouth suddenly twitched. Just as he thought, the gringo thought it was for him. And it's not to kill himself, but to kidnap himself. The reason is actually because of the blacksmith talent that I built along the way. Etc. Suddenly, as if he had noticed something, Bai Yi's expression changed and he hurriedly said to Tiger Mother. Tiger Mom, you stay here to look after the house, I'll go out first. After that, he didn't even have time to put on his shoes and ran straight outside. Looking at the memory fragments, he learned that Newt came to Daxia alone. In order not to alert Daxia officials and kidnapped him, he did not bring anyone else with him. And because he gained extraordinary power, he didn't even buy any weapons. In his plan, after using extraordinary power to suppress and kidnap himself, he would take him away overnight through someone from an organization he contacted. And the contact person of that organization is still waiting downstairs. He had just accidentally turned on the light in the room, fearing that this action would alarm the person. Really, when he arrived at the place where Newt and the other party agreed in his memory, he could no longer see the other party's figure. But where can you run to? Bai Yi sneered, sniffed his nose, and ran in one direction. Ever since the butcher's heart improved his physical fitness, his facial features have become very sharp. The residual aura here allows him to instantly lock the direction of the enemy's departure. Running wildly all the way, the explosive speed is not much slower than that of a car. Within a moment, he saw a figure running wildly on the dark street and turned into an alley. Bai Yi chased after him, and as soon as he stepped into the alley, a gunshot rang out, and a bullet went straight to his head. Waving the wand, the absorbing shield immediately appeared in front of him, completely blocking the bullets. Fake, how is this possible? In the alley, when a foreigner saw this scene, his expression suddenly changed and he hurriedly tried to shoot again. But Bai Yi didn't give him this chance. Let's hit the road. An indifferent voice sounded. The soul-eating hand activated again. A swish sound. The man's soul was convulsed and crushed on the spot. Bang. Soul broken. Bai Yi immediately had a lot of messy information in his mind. All are recent. As for some long-lasting memories, they are all gone. After all, the soul-eating hand can only get some memory fragments, and the most recent memory is enough. Accepting the memory, Bai Yi instantly knew the identity of this blonde and blue-eyed foreigner. It belongs to an organization cultivated by some countries in Daxia. It's hard to tell the specifics, but now it's in Bai Yi's hands. The most important thing is that from these memories, Bai Yi knew a lot of other people's information and the location of the base headquarters. Including when he killed Newt before, he also learned the location information of the other 2 people in the Dawn organization. So an extra surprise. In this way, he can hand it over to the Magic City officials and let them find a way to completely eliminate the Dawn organization. But speaking of it, this can be regarded as an unforeseen disaster for me. The Night Watchman of the Magic City will have to give me some compensation at that time, right? Bai Yi curled his lips and said a little depressed. After all, the main reason why he will be targeted by the Dawn organization is because of the previous market affairs, and for market affairs, it can be said that the official has a great responsibility. The subsequent official crackdown on the Dawn organization not only failed to completely solve it, but also caused people to focus on themselves. This would be unjustifiable if the official did not provide some compensation. Shaking his head and looking at the few memories he got from Newt in his mind, Bai Yi's eyes flashed and he immediately turned around and left, returning home. After taking out his mobile phone and finding Ni Meng's contact information, Bai Yi dialed directly. The call was answered quickly. Bai Yi didn't talk nonsense and directly told what happened. Over there on the phone, Ni Meng, who was originally a little drowsy, woke up instantly and said worriedly. What? People from the Dawn organization attacked you? How about it? Are you okay? I'm fine. I've already taken care of them, leaving 2 bodies behind. Please come over and take care of them. Okay, as long as you're okay, I'll take someone over right now. Ni Meng breathed a sigh of relief and immediately got up and came to Wang Zhangguo's office. Although it was late at night, Wang Zhangguo was still busy, and the lights were on in the office. After seeing Ni Meng come in, Wang Zhangguo looked confused. Xiaomeng, why are you coming to my place so late? Boss, that's it. After Ni Meng told Bai Yi what happened, Wang Zhangguo became furious. Those damn things actually dare to come to our Daxia. What do you mean? Don't you take my Daxia in your eyes? Are you looking for death? You must know that they have just launched a crackdown on the Dawn organization. At this time, people from the Liming organization not only stayed away from Daxia, but also came here on their own initiative. What's more, Bai Yi, who helped the Magic City official on the market day, took action. What's the meaning? Retaliation specifically against them. If this spreads out, where will the faces of the Night Watchmen in the Magic City be shown? Wang Zhangguo's face was gloomy and he said coldly. You should take someone over first to solve Mr. Bai Yi's troubles. Before you go to the warehouse to pick something as compensation for him. Wang Zhangguo can naturally think of things that Bai Yi can think of. In his opinion, Bai Yi was indeed an unreasonable disaster, and as an official, he would definitely provide compensation. Hearing this, Ni Meng nodded to express his understanding, turned and left. In an air-conditioned room. After coming back, Bai Yi hung up the phone, glanced at the corpse in the ice sculpture, and then clicked on the game. After entering the game, a large number of prompts immediately appear on the screen. You kill other players and get Iron X 5000, Wood X 20,000, Stone X 20,000, Evil God Statue X1, Mithril X5, and Blueprint, Water Filtration Device. Close black lens bracket. This guy is worthy of being one of the leaders of the Dawn organization, and he has a lot of good things. Bai Yi exclaimed. Fortunately, this time the other party chose to come in person just in case. If it was a little brat who came, he really wouldn't get this. Drawings, special materials, and a large number of basic resources. Considering the style of the Dawn organization, it is conceivable that many of these resources may be obtained by killing other players. Of course, compared to special materials and drawings, the most important thing is the statue of the evil god. Open black lens bracket Evil God statue. Close black lens bracket. Explanation. A statue of an evil god, right. The embodiment of faith, looking at the statue, can you feel it? With great power, choose to become. What can be obtained by a believer after making a sacrifice of gifts? Close black lens bracket. Bai Yi frowned and thought of many things in an instant. In the previous life, the Dawn organization ended up becoming followers of the evil god and thus rose to prominence in the later stages. I'm afraid it was because of this thing, right? I just didn't expect to get it at this time. Evil statue. This thing is absolutely useless. At least for him it was. After all, Bai Yi has no intention of becoming a follower of the evil god. Although it can gain benefits, it is also very risky. There is a high probability that it will be contaminated and become a deformed monster. If it is not contaminated, it will become a madman. The most important thing is that Bai Yi cannot be synthesized yet. The reason is simple. The statues transformed by this kind of belief in gods can usually be sensed by gods. If you really want to use it to synthesize it, who knows if the evil god will notice you? Bai Yi doesn't want to risk his life. Of course, that doesn't mean it has no value. If you can find a temple in the future, you can try it. But now, I can only let it go. Thinking of this, Bai Yi was not disappointed. After all, it is an item related to gods. Although it is an evil god, it may bring some unexpected benefits in the future. Shaking his head, Bai Yi continued to check other items. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.